Every neighborhood has one. The self-appointed ruler, the HOA president, who thinks they control everything. But sometimes they go too far. Meet Linda Patterson, your typical entitled Karen. She wasn't just a member of the Homeowners Association. She was the HOA, the law of the land, the judge, jury, and executioner of suburban perfection. And she made sure everyone knew it. Until one day, she picked the wrong battle, and it ended in handcuffs. When I bought my house, I was looking for a fresh start. After my divorce, I just wanted a quiet place where I could work, enjoy my space, and maybe even rebuild a sense of home. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Well-kept lawns, peaceful streets, and friendly neighbors. Or at least that's what I thought. What I didn't know was that I had just stepped into the domain of Linda Patterson, the HOA president who ruled the community like a dictator. Linda wasn't just strict about the rules, she made the rules. She fined people for the smallest infractions, a lawn a little too long, a car parked in the driveway for a few hours too many, holiday decorations that weren't removed the day after Christmas. It didn't matter if the HOA handbook said anything about these things. If Linda disapproved, you were paying for it. She didn't just enforce the guidelines. She twisted them to fit her own vision of perfection. And I, apparently, was her new target. My crime? A blue front door. The wrong shade according to her personal standards. The funny thing was, I checked the HOA rules before I moved in, and there was nothing in them about front door colors. But that didn't matter to Linda. The first violation notice came within days of me settling in. Please repaint your front door to an HOA-approved color. No reference to any official guideline, just a demand. I ignored it, assuming it was just a minor inconvenience. I was wrong. The second notice wasn't as polite. Failure to comply will result in daily fines. This time, the wording carried more weight and implied threat. Pay up or face legal consequences. But I wasn't about to be bullied, especially over something that wasn't even a real rule. I figured if I stood my ground, she'd back off. Instead, the notices kept coming, each one more aggressive than the last. Suddenly, I was in violation for my trash cans being visible from the street, for having a hose coiled up on my porch, for leaving my porch light on too long at night. Things that nobody else seemed to be getting fined for. Curious, I started asking my neighbors if they had experienced anything similar. That's when I learned the full extent of Linda's reign of terror. One neighbor told me she had fined them for a slightly crooked mailbox. Another said Linda had their American flag removed from their porch because it was too large. A family down the street had their kids yelled at for drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. This wasn't just about me. Linda had been terrorizing the neighborhood for years, and people were too scared to fight back. But I wasn't backing down. Then, the harassment started. At first, it was little things. My garbage cans would be mysteriously moved from the curb before pickup. A new violation notice would show up in my mailbox, citing some vague reason like failure to comply with the waste disposal regulations. Then, I started noticing Linda's car parked outside my house at odd hours, clipboard in hand, watching. And then came the pictures, printed, stuffed in my mailbox, shots taken over my fence, peering into my backyard, like she was actively hunting for something to find me over. I installed more security cameras. If she wanted a fight, I was going to be ready for it. One night, I heard rustling outside my window. My stomach dropped. I checked the security footage and saw a shadow moving through my yard. Someone in dark clothing carrying something. I couldn't tell what, but it looked like tools. The next morning, I found deep scratches along my car door. A warning. That's when I knew I needed to take this more seriously. I started documenting everything, every notice, every letter, every instance of her creeping around my property. I consulted a lawyer, and what I found was shocking. Linda had been overstepping her authority for years. Most of the fines she had issued weren't legally enforceable, and many of the rules she cited weren't even in the HOA handbook. I wasn't the only one she had scammed. My neighbors started digging through their own violation notices, and they found the same thing: threats with no legal standing, fines based on non-existent rules. Linda had been running the HOA like her personal kingdom, and now her empire was starting to crumble. But she wasn't done yet. Then she made her biggest mistake. One night, my cameras caught her red-handed. Linda, dressed in black, creeping into my backyard with bolt cutters in hand. She went straight for my fence, the same one she had fined me over, claiming it was an inch too tall, and she started cutting it down herself. That was the final straw. I called the police. By the time officers arrived, she was still mid-slice, her eyes wild when she saw the flashing lights. She tried everything, playing innocent, claiming she had legal authority as the HOA president, even demanding to speak to the police chief. None of it worked. They arrested her on the spot. Trespassing, property damage, harassment. The neighbors watched from their porches as the self-appointed queen of the HOA was hauled away in handcuffs. The fallout was immediate. Homeowners started filing lawsuits. The HOA board held an emergency vote and removed Linda from her position. And just like that, the neighborhood could finally breathe again. For the first time in years, people felt free. I repainted my door an even brighter shade of blue, out of spite. But Linda's troubles weren't over. In court, her long history of HOA abuse was exposed. The judge didn't just fine her, he banned her from ever serving on any HOA board again. Her empire had officially collapsed. And then came the financial scandal. With Linda out of power, people started investigating the HOA's finances. What they found was even worse than anyone expected. Money had been funneled into mysterious projects that never happened, a community pool renovation that never materialized, a security system that only monitored her house, landscaping fees that vanished without a trace. The HOA launched a full-scale audit, and what they found led to a class action lawsuit. Linda, once the terror of the neighborhood, was drowning in legal fees. Her home, the one she had spent years obsessively maintaining, went into foreclosure. The irony was almost too perfect. She disappeared overnight, leaving nothing but a tarnished reputation in her wake. No one heard from her again. As for the neighborhood, it thrived. The new HOA board eliminated excessive fines, focused on real community improvements, and stopped enforcing ridiculous rules. People started decorating their homes however they pleased. Kids played outside without fear of chalk-related citations. And my blue door, it became a symbol of victory. Linda had spent years wielding power over the neighborhood, convinced she was untouchable. But in the end, justice caught up with her. And as I sat on my porch, sipping coffee and looking out at my peaceful, drama-free home, I knew I had made the right choice by standing my ground.